Christy here, Real Fit for Real Life, and today's vlog is all about nutrition and hydration while you're training and during a race. When I went through my runner's bag, what's in my runner's toolkit, I started talking a little bit about nutrition and hydration and decided this needed its own vlog because it's really important. So, I had the pleasure of meeting Seth Wold, who is an elite runner and has won the Ogden Marathon probably multiple times. And he was so nice when he worked at the 26.2 shoe store, just chatted with me for like an hour on his tips and tricks for nutrition and hydration before and during a race. And it was so valuable, and I really incorporated that into my own running, and it was so helpful. And there's a lot out there on the internet too. So I say, you know, if this is something you're getting into, read and experiment with the different tips, because everybody is different. So good advice will really talk about how to individualize your hydration and refueling and carb intake. So to really get technical with hydration, you can always weigh yourself right before a run, buck naked, and then weigh yourself immediately after. And that difference, you should have a loss. I think it can be tricky because I swell up when I run, so there's a little bit of a weight gain. But if everything is mathematically accurate, you can figure out how much you've lost in sweat, and that can give you a more accurate measurement of how much water you should be taking in while you are running or training. Water is the best thing for, you know, shorter runs. If you're doing long runs, you might need electrolytes as well. So there's coconut water, which I like. I don't mind the taste of. Some people are really picky and don't like the flavor of coconut water, but I love that it's like natural and doesn't have food coloring and preservatives and some of the other ingredients that you'll find in like Gatorade and Powerade. Plus those kind of they coat my throat, and I just don't like the taste in the back of my mouth the whole time I'm running. Ugh, I don't do Gatorade. And you'll find a lot of runners who just can't do the Gatorade and Powerade that they're handing out. But a lot of people are fine with it. If you've been raised on Kool-Aid, it'll probably go down easier. During a race, you want to get your electrolytes, you know, probably an hour in. Again, everybody's different, and if you have a really sensitive stomach, you might not be able to take all that in until after the race. So pay attention to your body. Some people have really strong stomachs. When you're running, all the blood flow is going away from your digestive tract and going to your muscles. And so usually you're okay because your digestive tract isn't going to respond. Here's something else you can add to your water. If you don't like Gatorade or coconut water, you can they make a lot of different brands out there. Just make electrolyte tabs or even drops that you can add to your water. And they're pure electrolytes. You're not going to get the preservatives and the food coloring and all that. So that's another great alternative. And people like swear by these and love them. So get those electrolytes. Keep in mind the temperature outside when you're running. That makes a huge difference. If it's really hot and humid and you're going to be losing a lot more electrolytes, and so you might need more than usual. If it's a colder race and you're not sweating as much, you might not need it. So keep that in mind. Refueling and carbs. As far as carb loading the week or the night before, one really great thing that Seth taught me was that you shouldn't do anything different from usual. So carb loading is kind of a myth. You don't want to, like, I don't really eat a lot of pasta. So for me to sit down and have this huge spaghetti dinner before a race, it would probably just upset my stomach and make me have a horrible race day. So do what you do. Eat something a little bit more bland. So not like spicy, super ethnic foods, because those aren't, you know, they're not easy on the gut. And just think, you know, what do I want to be pooping out the next day? Think about that. Let's keep it real, people. You don't want to spend your entire race on the porta potties. It's just not good. So eat something, you know, that is easy on your gut and is typical of your diet. Okay, so that's carb loading. During the event and before, so right before, let's say your race, the gun starts at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m. I want to have eaten something 2 hours before, and then maybe even a banana or half a banana an hour before. But again, something that's easy on your stomach. You do want your breakfast that you eat 2 or 3 hours before to have a good balance of carbs, proteins, a little bit of healthy fat. Hopefully that's how you're already eating, and so it's not something new and different. I love making oat cakes, which is just oats and egg whites, and cooking it like a pancake, topping it with a little bit of Greek yogurt and some fruit. Because I'm used to that and eat it all the time, it's not weird and crazy. So eat something that you eat all the time, and hopefully it's healthy. Some people get really nervous and they can't eat it all before a race, but I think that can sometimes be a mistake because you need some fuel. So I hope that you're in the practice and the habit of eating a healthy breakfast before you work out. And you have to be there so early. For all the marathons I've done, because they bus us up a canyon, we have to be there so early that you have plenty of time to eat and have it, digest and everything. Coffee. If you're used to a morning coffee and you always have it, you'll probably be okay. Some people, if you aren't a regular coffee drinker, that caffeine can wreak havoc on your gut. So don't do anything weird. The night before, try to avoid alcohol, but if you're used to having a beer every night, you'll probably be okay. So one thing that I was reading that I find interesting is you should avoid ibuprofen and Aleve before your race, and especially during your race, because that can mess up your gut and make you have an upset stomach. So they recommend Tylenol. If you're going to take any kind of painkiller before your race or during your race, they advise you to do Tylenol. So carbs during the race. They often will pass out like goo, and there are other brand names, but it's still goo. So I just call it all goo, but just some mushy carbs in a packet that you can take. Be careful, some of them do have caffeine, and that can mess up your stomach in the middle of a race. So I learned quickly that the caffeinated goos just did not agree with me. So practice and try different brands and try different flavors, because some of them will not go down well, or you'll feel it in your throat, or the aftertaste is horrible. So experiment. I had a hard time eating the whole goo. What's really important is drinking lots of water, chasing that with water to help it digest, because it's just hard on your tummy to take anything in when the blood flow has been in the muscles, and then suddenly it needs to come back to the gut for a minute to try to absorb whatever you've just put in it. So, play around. Some people don't like the texture of the goo, and so there's chomps, there's sports beans. I really liked the sports beans because the texture was yummy to me, like eating candy during a race. Hand it over to me. I want that candy. But a lot of people want to keep it natural. So no, a lot of these do have food coloring and preservatives and all that good stuff. So there are some more natural ones out there that you can find in the health food store. Sometimes they don't come out of the packet very well. I tried one that was more a fat-based fuel for people who eat more fats than carbs to refuel, and it just did not come out. It was like an almond butter type refueling packet, and I didn't know how to get it out. You had to pretty much rip it completely open. So, but experiment. You do need to carb up about, it kind of depends on you, how long the event is, how much you weigh, just your own, how you work, how you function. So you have to experiment, but probably every hour or maybe a few times during a marathon. Just kind of stay on top of it. The biggest thing is making sure you you take care of it before you bunk. Often we wait to drink until we're thirsty. Well, if you're thirsty, you're already past that point. You should have hydrated earlier. Same with taking in your carbs. If you're waiting until you've completely bunked, and if you're new to endurance running, and if you never run like a marathon, you may never experience what a bunk is. Yay! But if you have done long distances, at some point in your life, you will experience what a bonk is, or hitting the wall. And basically what it feels like is death. You're running and you're going along, and all of a sudden everything is shutting down. Your legs feel like lead, your gut is off, like you just feel so horrible. You can't go on any longer. I had a friend on a long training run, and she bunked and actually took a nap on the ground, right beside the street. So it's no good to bunk. So that's why we want to stay on top of nutrition and hydration. My friend Seth, I use his advice a lot because it was just like so helpful. But he said he takes water at every water station. A lot of runners, especially the elite runners, will skip some water stations and maybe do every other. He says every water station. And he walks. Now he probably walks like 1-2 steps, whereas I walk probably like 20 or 30 steps. But that was good advice, to just take that water. He said, even if you don't think you're thirsty, take that water. And he has a great technique for grabbing the cup and drinking it really fast and then going. I am not quite as coordinated. I have to sip in my little girly fashion. But that was great advice. Just stay on top of that hydration. It's so, so important. Now, before the race, you want to cut off your water drinking about an hour before, because then you'll be at the start line and you'll have to pee already, or mile 1 you'll have to pee. So watch that. Get your hydration the day before. Don't overhydrate. So they say the best way to know if you're overhydrating is just check out the color of your pee. If your pee is completely clear, you're probably overhydrating. It should be a pale yellow. So check the color. If it's dark, of course, you are not hydrated enough. So stay hydrated, get that nutrition. If you really want to go all natural and keep it easy, you don't need anything. If it's a good marathon, they're handing out, or half, they're handing out bananas and oranges at the right time where you need to start carbing. So I find that the best organized marathons, I can completely rely on them for my hydration and nutrition, because they are stationed right where they need to be. So hopefully you're running a good race. If it's not as well organized, pack your own, wear your own fuel belt, and have your water, or your coconut water, your goos, whatever you like to use. The thing is, practice. So your training runs are also just training your hydration and nutrition. And start to take note of, like what works and what doesn't work. Learn your own body. It really is trial and error, because we're not all exactly the same. But hopefully my advice is helpful to those of you who've never done a long event and you really want to, and you're a normal person like I am. Hopefully these tips help. Thanks for joining me, Christy, Real Fit for Real Life.